Namaste nerds, Navana, Budget Pub Stomper. Today we're going to be talking about Iroh Grand Lotus, and I am just going to get straight into this because I'm kind of losing my voice today. I don't have a lot of voice going on here, but we'll get through it. This is just an absolute powerhouse of a commander that the entire world is sleeping on. We'll get to that. This is for 6 mana, but it's in Temur colors. This is 3 colorless and a Temur. You get a 5/5 with Firebending 2. Mostly just that's gravy. That bottom line of text says during your turn, each lesson card in your graveyard has flashback 1. That's worse than gravy. That's more like a trap. And what we're here for, and why everyone else isn't here for this, I haven't quite figured out. It says during your turn. Like, read this with me, if you could. Look at what that says right there. Let's scroll down here. Okay. During your turn, each non-lesson instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to that card's mana cost. Does that remind you of anything? This is Past in Flames in the command zone. Why aren't people building this? So always when I build these decks, or at least in some point before I bring them to video, I look and see what everybody else is doing with their deck. Like, say if I'm building, Iroh. Then I look through the other Iroh decks and I see if there's any like super busted synergies that I missed, or like cool combos that I left out, or I just kind of want to see, get inspired by other people's innovation. Let's put it that way. Not copying off them necessarily, but sometimes I'll find a package in somebody's deck and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even think about that, mind blown, let's do that. And I always do try to give those people props, give them their flowers, as the kids are saying. But this one I kind of just had to build on my own because nobody's doing anything powerful with this. If you scroll down past my deck list on Moxfield, you're going to find like Lessons Tribal and Bracket 2 and some Bracket 3 decks that when I looked at them, they just looked wrong. I think, and there's just, as far as I can tell, there is zero interest in the cEdh community for this commander, and so I think that's baffling. And the only thing I can think of is maybe the Firebending 2 is like making people think wrong about the commander, or maybe that during the lesson bit of text there, it has people thinking, oh, this is Lessons Tribal, and how good can that be? We don't have to play any lessons. I think I put 2 lesson cards in the deck, but you definitely don't need them. I mean, you could easily swap them out. There's probably a couple of cards that we could do 1-for-1 swaps and make the deck even better than it already is. But the deck works. Now, what is it that we're trying to do? Well, I mean, obviously we're trying to storm off, right? This is a storm engine, and it's not like a storm engine in the sense that cEdh is a storm engine. This isn't like you can cast 1 additional spell on your turn. This is, you can cast all of your instants and sorceries that are in your graveyard. You have access to every single one of them. And as you're casting cantrips and rituals and wheels and getting new grips of cards and other stuff is going into your graveyard, you can just keep going and keep going. I mean, it's Past in Flames. This should feel just a little bit like having Underworld Breach in your command zone. And cEdh is just not into it, I guess. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, but there's definitely a void in the world, in the collective minds of Magic the Gathering competitive commander players, and I am here to try to fill that void with this build. You might have guessed with the Planeswalker sitting is kind of like the right-hand man of Iroh here. Narset, Parter of Veils, that we're going to be playing wheels. No, we're not like a wheel deck. And let me just pause on this critique of people not playing this as a cEdh commander. I do want to say, I don't think this is like the next Nod. This isn't the second coming of Nadu. This isn't Blue Farm, I'm surprised nobody's at least trying to brew this in cEdh. It kind of makes me want to give it a crack. I think it could be, I'm positive this could be totally viable in cEdh. But we're not here to talk about cEdh. We're here to talk about budget competitive. So when you go down to your local game store, and if you're sick of getting raffle stomped by the $700 Slivers deck or the $800 Krinko or the Vampires that has Markov, whatever, Edgar Markov, I've got a $97.69 deck that will absolutely kneecap any of those non-cEdh decks. This is going to be a deck that is totally viable in a budget competitive meta. If you've got like $100 budget tournaments in your local area, or if you're dropping into the Discord and you're going to play some pickup games with us, I guarantee you will be playing in those games. You'll not be sitting by and watching everybody else play Magic. This is a legitimate threat at just about any table short of cEdh. So what are we doing with this Past in Flames in the command zone? Well, we're wheeling, that's for sure. But no, we're not a wheels deck. Now, normally what I do when I talk about a budget competitive deck is I explain the commander, and then I go directly into the win conditions. But I think in this deck, the win conditions are largely irrelevant. They're almost an afterthought. In fact, they kind of were an afterthought in my particular brew. While I was building this deck, I focused on getting the right mix of things to allow me to have this big crazy storm turn first. And only after that did I go back and bring in the win conditions. And then when I brought the win conditions in, it did cause me to export some packages and import some other packages. So what did we end up with? Because we do have a 6-mana commander that is instant and sorcery based, which is going to kind of, or I think it ought to, have your mind going in the direction of like a control deck. So we should be thinking Temur control. But we also have Past in Flames in the command zone, which should have you thinking in terms of Temur Storm. And I think what you need to do to really get the most out of this commander and this archetype, or this commander and this deck, I should say, is you need to take the Storm archetype, and then you need to take the just Temur control archetype, and you need to bring those two archetypes together and blend them into one cohesive strategy. That's going to be the key. And maybe that's the thing that people are missing. Maybe they're looking at it and say 6 mana is too much for a Storm commander, or maybe they're looking at it and just thinking like this isn't powerful enough to be or this maybe not. It just doesn't work well enough as a control finisher. But I don't know. I think that the best way to look at this is it's going to be unlocking your deck in a way that allows you to use Storm as your control finisher. So this is a control deck, it's a ramp deck, and it's a Storm deck. That's what we've got. So some of I want to tell you about the most broken strategy, or the most broken synergy as far as I'm concerned in the entire deck. And I went through and looked at all these other decks, these Iroh decks, and none of them are playing this card. Doesn't make sense to me. And that is Song of Creation. This is one of the most broken Magic cards ever printed that nobody plays, or that rarely sees play. This is 4 mana, it's an enchantment, and it says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. That's nice. But mainly it says, whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards. Now, those 2 lines of text maybe don't seem like they have that much to do with each other, but they really actually do. Whenever you cast a spell, you draw 2 cards. But at the beginning of your end step, you have to discard your entire hand. So as soon as you brick, like when you're when you're storming off and you're playing this card, which is going to draw you 2, and then you play that, and it's going to draw you 2. When you're storming off with Song of Creation, the thing that's going to cause you to brick is when you hit a land. But with this, you have this, the thing that would normally cause you to brick when you're trying to storm off with one of these effects, like Song of Creation, is that when you hit that land, you brick. But assuming you start storming off and you have not played your land for turn yet, you're going to play a spell, draw 2 cards, play a spell, draw 2 cards, and then eventually you're going to not have anything to do but play a land, so you'll play a land, and the next thing you do is you'll just draw a couple of extra lands, and that's normally going to stop the engine, or normally would stop the engine, but Song of Creation allows you to play an additional land so that you can keep going, keep the turn rolling. Now, if it's not obvious what the synergy is with the commander says that you can play your cards out of your graveyard. So the big problem, like the big weakness, the 2 big weaknesses of Song of Creation is, number 1, when you no longer have cards that you can cast in your hand, like if you just ran out of mana, or you don't have things that you want to play, or you just are holding like 4 counter spells and nothing else, well, you're stuck, right? And then you have to go to your end step and discard your hand. And that hurts. That can be painful. But your commander in this deck allows you to play the cards that you discard out of your graveyard. And if not right now, but, next turn. So you still kind of get to keep those assets. You still have those. You still have access to those resources. But the other thing is, if you do have to pass the turn without winning with Song of Creation in play, then when it comes back to you on your turn, if you don't draw something to cast off the top of your deck, you're often just kind of boned, right? So in past, when I've tried to build around this, I've looked to using cards that will allow me to exile things until my next turn. Just for an example, well, there's tons of stuff. Like you can play the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn, or you can cast an adventure, so that adventure is there hanging out waiting for you, so that when you go to your next turn with your Song of Creation out, but you've discarded your hand and you just draw a land, and you just make your land drop, you don't just have to pass, you can cast that. Whatever it is that you sent on an adventure, you can cast that creature and then get the ball rolling again. But we don't have to worry about any of that with this deck, because our commander gives everything flashback. So if we are storming off with Song of Creation and we manage to somehow not win the game on that turn, which could happen, then when it comes back to you, you're able to use all of the stuff that's in your graveyard to get that chain back up and running. And I think I want to show you this in Goldfishing, because it may not sound as busted as it is. I don't know. It sounds busted to me, but it is totally busted. It's way over the top. It's uber broken. Now, what do we need to enable the plan? Okay, let's talk a little bit more about what the plan exactly is. The plan is survive long enough to untap with Iroh in play. That's your plan. That's all you need to be focused on. The rest of the deck will take care of itself. You untap with Iroh, so that means that you want to cast him and have a way or ways to protect him, whether that be some kind of Swiftfoot Boots or Lightning Greaves or Spell Skite, or having interaction open to protect them. Whatever you have to do along those lines, do that, and then when you untap, you're going to storm off and win the game. So we're going to play a control game in the early goings. So we want to load the deck full of instants like very slim interaction. We want to have the tools to abrade the Selvala that might win before you can untap with your guy. We need to have things like Offer, Arcane Denial, Delay, Mana Leak, Flare of Duplication. We're a great Flare of Duplication deck. Dispel, Memory Lapse, Miscast, Negate, Rapid Hybridization, Run Away Together, Counterspell, Lightning Bolt, Strict Serenade, Spell Snare, whatever this thing is, Nature's Claim. So we want to have a lot of slim interaction to survive the early turns. And we need to have a lot of ramp. And the ramp that I'm using in the deck, I mean, we're in Teamer, so we have access to all the ramp in the world. I'm playing a good mix of things. I've got your kind of traditional Dorks package. I've got your I always call them rituals, but I've got your Simian Spirit Guide, your Elvish Spirit Guide. So we've got the dorks, we've got the rituals, including Tinderwall, some of your mana batteries like Wild Cantor, and then we've got cost reducers. We've got cost reducers such as Longshot Rebel Bowman, which ends up being a big card for this deck. Ral Monsoon Mage, which is not just a cost reducer, but is also a payoff. And we've got Goblin Anarchomancer. I was back and forth on going between this and Goblin, the wizard, the blue red wizard version that discounts your what is that called? Goblin. The term Goblin Anarchomancer is messing me up. I know it's something very similar to that, but the wizard that's a blue and a red that's like just basically strictly worse Ral, but it's 40 cents. So you definitely could jam that. In fact, it's probably in my considering board now. So let's take a look. It's not, but it could be. It should be, in fact. Anyway, I thought about going with the Goblin Wizard that discounts all your instants and sorceries, but the Goblin Anarchomancer is still going to discount all of your red instants and sorceries, which I thought was more, well, that's the biggest, most important part, because it discounts the cost of our rituals. That's the big thing. I mean, that's really why we want these. I mean, it's good to be able to discount your 2-mana counterspells, and I did kind of lean into that a little bit. Like, I made sure to play the best counterspells that are 2 mana, but exactly 1 blue and 1 colorless. Arcane Denial, we'll get into them. But the difference between, or the reason that I decided to err on the side of Goblin Anarchomancer is because it also discounts the cast cost of our commander. So this is like a mana rock when we cast it in terms of being able to play our commander, and then it's better than a mana rock when you actually start to try to go off with your commander. Because it's a mana rock for every single red and or green spell that you try to cast, in so much that it has at least 1 colorless in its cast cost. Okay, so long-winded there. Goblin, we've got the mana batteries, we've got the elves, we've got the rituals. Like, this is probably the best ritual in the deck. And your Goblin Anarchomancer will cost reduce this sticker Goblin. Wild Cantor, Tinderwall, those sorts of things. Then we're also playing Rite of Flame, and we're playing Strike It Rich. We're going real big on ramp because ramp is what we need to get a 6-mana team or commander in play, but it's also what we need in order to go off with a stormy type deck. So on the storm turns, we're going to be real happy that we've included Desperate Ritual and Pyretic Ritual, so on, right? So we've got the dorks, we've got the rituals, we've got the mana batteries, we've got the cost reducers, and then we've got the mana rocks. And we went with 7 total. All of our artifacts are mana rocks, and I went with all of the talismans, exactly Simic Signet, Felwar Stone, and Arcane Signet. And I did want to have enough of these to justify the Spire of Industries include. Hasn't been a problem so far. Tarnished Citadel got another reprint. This thing's down to sub $3. So this is one that should be probably finding its way into your, like, at least 4 color decks, 4 and 5, and probably a lot of your 3 color decks. We've got a $13.73 mana base. That's not really because I felt like I needed it to make the deck work. I wasn't running into mana problems and then I had to come back and fix it. It's because I got basically done with the deck and I had like $20 left in my budget. So we got to splurge a little bit. I did some kind of strict upgrade type stuff. And we were able to fit Echo of Eons into the deck, which is really important in this list. So when we get to the turn where we're going to storm off, whether that be with using Song of Creation or if that's just with a combination of a bunch of rummaging and loot effects and card draw cantrips, rituals. Either way, wheels, right? When we go for the big storm off turn, we're going to want to have, we're going to need to have a way to actually close the game out. And if we do that by using something like a long shot Rebel Bowman, and this is 4 mana, reach, non-creature spells cost 1 less to cast, yours. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, long shot deals 2 damage to each opponent. So our control build has kind of turned into a Curiosity Control. So that's our control strategy. We're playing a bunch of removal and counter spells, but we're in cost reducers. But we're also playing some of these the best ones, the long shot, and this guy, Coruscant Mage, so that we can put a Curiosity on either this guy or this guy or this guy. Because Niv Mizzet ends up being just a really good teamer control win condition that also just plays really well with all the stormy things that we're doing in the deck. And it's a wizard, which we ended up on a really nice wizard package. We've got Dual Caster Mage, this guy. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. We've got 4 really broken wizards that are they're things that we're often going to want to tutor for, enablers, win conditions. So we're also playing Step Through, mostly as just a wizard cycling 2. We can use this to find our Niv Mizzet, so one of our 2 main win conditions, or Ral, or this mage. And I guess if you play the red-blue goblin version of Ral, you could find that too. Alright, so when we're storming off, if we have like a long shot Rebel Bowman, and maybe we've got a Coruscant Mage that we've offspring to make 1 or 2 copies of, then we're going to be able to do this like burn the table out thing when we're wheeling and playing all of the cards in our deck once through, and then casting an Echo of Eons and shuffling everything back in and drawing back up to a full grip, and then keep going, and then once we've emptied the entire clip, then we'll cast Will of the Just Guy and keep going and going and going, and eventually we'll have this huge pile of cards in the graveyard, and we will all of the while been burning our opponents out, and then we'll cast all of them from exile, or we'll cast all of them from the graveyard, which will put them into exile. So the Echo of Eons kind of single-handedly opens up this line of play that wouldn't otherwise be available, which is to burn the table out with a combination of these little pinger effects and Grape Shot. And Grape Shot, when you're going through a storm turn, if you can burn everybody out a little bit and then cast this big gnarly Grape Shot, and then shuffle everything back into your library and keep going and hit the Grape Shot again, and then cast it again from your graveyard, that's absolutely enough Grape Shots to murk the table. Now, if you want just some hard outlets, we've got that too, like just hard win conditions. We're going to do that also. We've got Niv Mizzet because he's a broken broken card advantage engine for any of these like big mana storm decks. This is a big mana payoff. We're doing big mana. We're doing stormy, wheelie, spellslinger type things. So may as well slap the Niv Mizzet in, and we have a lot of synergy with Curiosity effects. And if we just put a Curiosity on Niv Mizzet, we win the game, essentially. Again, that may not exactly be the case, or wouldn't have been, if not for the inclusion of Echo of Eons. So this is just a time twister for 6 mana, but you can flash it back for 3 mana. So you can actually you can Twister Loop and then Twister Loop again, just with this card. You can cast it the first time for 6 mana while you're rolling through one of these big storm turns, and then when you come to it again, you can flash it back. And this also alleviated the necessity for something like a Thassa's Oracle effect or a Laboratory Maniac. We don't have to play that kind of just dead card. We can just play Echo of Eons. It will serve basically the same function. If you're worried that you're going to cast your Niv Mizzet, put a Curiosity on it, and still not be able to close the game out, I think that's a little bit of a silly thing to worry about. But if you're worried about that, don't be. You're not going to deck yourself, because if you're drawing your deck with Niv Mizzet, you will necessarily draw into a bunch of rituals and Echo of Eons, which will shuffle all of your things back and allow you to do the extra damage to kill that last guy. It's really not a problem anyway. You can't realistically attach a Curiosity to a Niv Mizzet, storm off, draw your entire deck, kill 2 of the 3 players at the table, and then not be able to win the 1v1 with the last player just because he's got 4 life left. It just isn't going to work that way, or even if he's got 20 life left. Niv Mizzet and a Curiosity really is just a hard win, but it gets a little bit harder when you've got Echo of Eons in the deck. So yeah, that's kind of so we're also playing Narset. So we have these kind of quasi A plus B combos in the form of Narset, Parter of Veils with any of our wheels. And we've got Windfall, we've got Echo of Eons, those are the big 2. But we also have Will of the Jeskai, which doesn't work quite the way you'd want it to with Narset, but Narset does power your Will of the Jeskai up. And this also is kind of like a backup commander. I was playing the deck with actual Past in Flames in the deck. I don't think that's necessary. And it hasn't been necessary. It's never, I've played this, I've iterated on this a lot, but I bet you I've got 50 games goldfished, and it's never come up. It's never been a thing. It's never felt like a problem. So we've got the Niv Mizzet plus a Curiosity effect, and the Curiosity effects we're playing are Tandem Lookout, which we can use our creature tutors to find, and Curiosity, and Keen Sense. I think I clicked on those in the opposite order, but you get the idea. Keen Sense, Curiosity, they're the same card, just in different colors. They say whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Niv Mizzet says whenever you draw a card, you may deal a damage. That starts a loop that results in doing as many damage as you have cards left in your library, and then drawing that many cards. That won't always be enough to kill everybody outright, but then if you run into your Echo, then it probably will be. And otherwise, you're going to more or less kill everybody, and then also have a big dragon and access to every card in your deck. You'll get there. You'll figure it out. I have faith. I believe in you. And if not, you'll hit your grape shot, and you'll cast that. And the other main hard win line is Dualcaster Mage, and I'm playing Electro Duplicate. I'm really back and forth on this. I think I have budget where I could fit Twin Flame in, but we are playing a bunch of wheels, and I went as deep as even this is the first deck that I've put this card in a very long time, where after play testing and running into it, I kept it in the deck. But we're on Fact or Fiction even. So we've got wheels, Fact or Fiction, cantrips. We've got, more to the point, Frantic Search and Consider. So we're going to be putting things in the graveyard. And so I think that with the price difference also between Electro Duplicate and Twin Flame, I think Electro Duplicate gets the nod over Twin Flame in this list. We are only at $97.69. And to be totally honest, we don't need Tarnished Citadel in this deck. So you could just switch this out for the next best land, or even like another basic would be just fine. And you could squeeze the Twin Flame in. I think the best way to show you what the deck is doing So the early game, we're controlling the game. We're killing the Rals that are trying to win on turn 3. We're killing, well, turn 2 or 3. We're turn 2 through 4. And we're killing the Selvalas that are trying to win on turn 3 or 4. And we're just kind of keeping the table in check. We're not going to play table police, but we're going to stop win attempts, right? You're not trying to counter everything. You don't have enough interaction in any deck to do that in any 4-player pod. But if you get a long shot Rebel Bowman and you put a Curiosity on it, or if you get this guy and put a Curiosity effect on it, now you really can 3v1 the table, or 1v3 the table. You absolutely will have enough interaction to just go ahead and say you guys are done for in a lot of scenarios. And so there are different ways we could have gone. This is the way we've gone. I wouldn't think it a terrible idea if somebody wanted to bounce the Tarnished Citadel and put a Misdirection in the deck, but Misdirection is like $8 right now. It just doesn't feel worth it. Maybe you could put a Mental Misstep in. I think that's down to like $5. But I don't know. That's a meta call. But I think really to show you what we're doing in the deck, I did make room for Spellskite. I thought that was important enough. I think the best way to show you what the deck is going to look like is just to play the deck. Yeah, actually, I think... okay, here's how we're going to do this, and I might do this from now on. I want you guys to let me know if you actually want to see the gold fishing for the deck. If you're interested, let me know, and we'll go through the gold fishing. If not, I think I'm going to wrap this one up kind of early. So Iroh is usually coming down on turn 3 or 4. It depends really most of the time on a little bit of luck and also whether or not we want to protect him, if we want to go out of our way to actively protect him. He's going to be a storm engine for us to set up a storm turn, go on a big storm run, hopefully with one of these long shot Rebel Bowman in play, and ideally your yet is if we also have a Curiosity on it, and just go through our deck and ritual and cost reduce and do all the storm things. So we're starting off as a control deck, kind of a Curiosity control deck, where we're setting up pingers with Curiosities, and we're using all of this interaction to stop people's early win attempts. And then once we're set up, we're going to go through a big storm run, which is going to include wheeling and willing and windfalling, until we find our pieces that we need to actually murder the table. Sometimes Ral will help us get there just by flipping and then doing the Ral thing. And it's all going to be leading to a bunch of chip damage with our pingers and some of our creatures, and then a big grape shot, and then a big wheel into do it all again. Or we've got hard win outlets, hard combos in the form of Keen Sense or Curiosity or Tandem Lookout, which is tutorable with our creature tutors. Connecting any of the Curiosity effects to Niv Mizzet will win the game, or Dualcaster Mage Twin Flame will win the game, or sorry, Electro Duplicate with Dualcaster Mage will win the game, or we've got like these kind of longer way round ways to win the game, which will eventually usually end in a big old gut shot or casting the same lightning bolt 6 times, that sort of thing. Yeah, so that kids is the deck. Let me know what you think in the comments, and again, if you want to see the you know what I forgot, I think bonus round needs to be in this deck. $2.12. Look at that. It's meant to be. That's going to put us at $99.81, except now we've got to pull a card out. I think we're a little bit creature heavy, and I know they're ramp, but I think maybe we get rid of the last creature mana battery in the form of Wild Canter. It is also the best. Let me just take a quick look and see if there's anything else that's not absolutely necessary. So shared roots gets cost reduced by the commander, gets cost reduced by all of our cost reducers, and it is a spell. It's not like it's an instant or sorcery. Solve the equation. Step 2 finds our wizards. The rituals, the cantrips. I like shared summons because it can find a couple of creatures we want, or it can put together so it can be like a toolboxy type card, or it can just put the Tandem Lookout and the Niv Mizzet both in our hand. I don't think we can afford to cut any lands. 33 feels perfect. I think we've got the right amount of ramp. I think, artifact ramp specifically. I think I'd like it if that stopped happening. So yeah, I think it's got to be Wild Canter. Oh, there you go. A deck got it in real time. $99.65. Remember, if you wanted to make a couple of splashier upgrades, you could do. You could pull the Tarnished Citadel, get some free interaction. But that's the deck, guys, and I think people are sleeping on it. Stop sleeping on it. Build the deck. Come into the Discord. Like and subscribe. I never, ever, ever ask you guys to do that. But if you've watched till this point in the video, then you must like something about what I'm doing. Like and subscribe, and I guess I'll see you guys in the Discord. Check me out on the Pub Stomp. What is it called? The Stomping Grounds. Come to the Stomping Grounds. Namaste, nerds. Word to your mothers and all that. Peace.